Happy to inform the unjust of the United States of some breaking news that clearly you are not going to appreciate, and sucks to be you. So, in the fight for reparations, I said it incorrect by mistake. Uh, this is an international conversation, and the United States has come to a high, mature realization in the form of the local government being the stronghold of the national government. You understand? And so they have all come to an agreement here where it says mayors. Let me give you the date of this article here. Tuesday, July 14th, 2020, the Washington Examiner. Mayors back reparations that could cost $6.2 quadrillion or $151 million per descendant. The nation's mayors on Monday backed a national call for reparations to 41 million Black people, a program that could cost taxpayers $6.2 quadrillion. The United States Conference of Mayors released a letter backing a Democratic plan to form a reparations commission to come up with a payment for slavery. We recognize and support your legislation as a concrete first step in our larger reckoning as a nation and a next step to guide the actions of both federal and local leaders who have promised to do better by our Black residents, said the letter from conference president Greg Fisher, mayor of Louisville, Kentucky. Senator Cory Booker and Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, I want to call her the Great Queen, have introduced legislation to create a commission, the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. The study is prompted by H.R. 40, our great ancestor who had died that came up with the study bill. Has been introduced as legislation and will soon be voted on in the House. Once it passes the House, it will go to the Senate, and the study will be law. Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. You know, it's a round for round. You know, it's a marathon, as people like to think or like to compare. You understand? So, the countless murders of our ancestors will soon be addressed. if they had any intelligence, they would recruit the wealth of the Israelites, which is currently fully vetted, fully documented. The entire amount of valued at infinity is documented properly in every sense of the word and controlled by one man. So if they had any uh, intelligence and wisdom, they would allow that one man to fund these international debts and these worldwide debts to the people who have blessed every nation. The Bible told our ancestors that through you, every nation will be blessed. So that has happened with our physical wealth, and it has happened with our labor for over 4,000 years. Yeah, 4,000 years. Because 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ came on the scene. Praise Jesus. 2,000 years before that, Abraham came on the scene. That's a great guy. And so Abraham had many nations. Many nations had Abraham. That's an old song that I learned back in Sunday school. You understand? So over those 4,000 years, we have served humanity and served the earth uh, countless times and countless slaveries. What appears to have existed in this current day is that in 2019, those slaveries had ended. Okay, so first time we were warned after we were reminded of the law that existed during the time of Adam and preserved by Noah, passed down through the generations to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All of that information was passed down. The law, the rule of law was passed down. Throughout that time, when it reached the Jacob, his sons were semi-rebellious, and they sold. What's little bro name or great uncle name? Uh, they sold Joseph into slavery. So he was in fact the first documented slave in our family. And prior to that, Adam was a slave to Satan, who had repented, and over a certain amount of time, the Most High accepted his repentance and told him that in 5.5 days, I will send my son to uh, bring Adam back into the family. So throughout that time, the majority of Adam's family, that's why they made that show, Adam's Family, to demonize Adam. Throughout that time, the majority of Adam's family stayed on the left-hand side or the rejected side or the vessels fit for destruction. And a special strain of Adam's line by way of the Israelites uh, got into the Most High's good graces. Then, as you go down the line, Jesus Christ is born in order to uh, save his people, who are the Israelites, who, namely the northern kingdom, because the southern kingdom had always been earmarked. The southern kingdom had always been earmarked to be saved by the Most High, but the northern kingdom uh, was estranged from the family of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, the southern kingdom. So now, that's what Jesus came to do. He came to save the northern kingdom, who were called Gentiles, and this is a major confusion that the religions teach, that it was talking about every Gentile on the planet. However, Jesus' timing does not fit the 5,500 year prophecy given to Adam by the Most High. Jesus' timing fits 3,500-ish years. Yeah, that's correct. Or 4,000, I forget right off the top of my head, but Jesus Christ's timing is not the right timing for the 5,500 year prophecy given to Adam by the Most High, saying that he will send his son to restore Adam's family. Okay, so hopefully that's understood. And I'm going to continue to read here. It says, we recognize and support your legislation as a concrete first step in our larger reckoning as a nation, and a next step to guide the actions of both federal and local leaders who have promised to do better by our Black residents, said the letter from Conference President Greg Fisher, Mayor of Louisville, Kentucky. Senator Cory Booker and Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, the Queen, have introduced legislation to create a commission, the commission study to develop reparation proposals for African Americans. Let's take a closer look at that. Okay, that's just the announcement and the filing for it. So it's not going to give you any details. This bill establishes the commission to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans. The commission shall examine slavery and discrimination in the colonies and the United States from 1619 to the present and recommend appropriate remedies. Among other requirements, the commission shall identify the role of federal and state governments in supporting the institution of slavery, forms of discrimination in the public and private sectors against freed slaves and their descendants, and lingering negative effects of slavery on living African Americans and society. Wow, they're really not aware of the negative effects that linger. Okay, well, it's still we got a big win. Okay, so it was introduced in the House January 3rd, 2019. So I suppose this is how the process works because this is just a continuation of that process right there. January 3rd, 2019. So that commission, okay, so yeah, the act, the form of the HR 40, HR 40, House Resolution 40, I guess that's the baby version of that. That's a bill, HR 40 bill. Okay, it becomes an act. So they introduced the act, the act version of the bill, which is they. This is one summary. Four HR 40 bill summaries are authored by Congress. So I don't know the particulars of that, uh, but the bill is polished up into an act, and this is going to be the name of the act. Okay, so that's Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. So now that doesn't have a simple acronym. So I guess they're trying to make it as forgetful as possible. They're making it a long title, Commission to Study and Develop Reparations Proposals for African Americans Act. See, and of course they do it at the timing that they utilize, right, is to continue momentum into the voting uh, timing, right? So now that's extremely annoying to people who are aware of the magic that they use. So what you need to do is you need to uh, uh, get this act passed before voting. You understand? You need to do something before voting. See, that's what's going to solidify your vote. You see, you see. Of course, we understand how you think it's going to look when we saw Republicans fighting against misinformation. We heard what Mitch McConnell said that uh, Barack Obama is the only reparations that you deserve. We heard him say that. So it's going to be painfully obvious to everyone that the Democrats are the ones who are fighting for this. Because everybody involved in fighting for reparations cannot have a conversation with a Republican. We understand that. There's no conversation at all. And conversations are how uh, law gets passed through conversation. So we understand that the Democrats, are the ones fighting on our behalf tooth and nail. So it's not going to be forgotten just because uh, Snow signs it into law. You see what I'm saying? Just because he signs it into law, blacks on mass and people on mass, that might even work to your benefit because the base of Snow's base is severely white identity extremists. So once he signs reparations into law, they're gonna vote him out of office. So I hope that expertise, being the only reparations expert on this panel, is fully comprehended. You understand? And that's just bottom line. Let me get back to the reading. I'm gonna chop this up real nice and send it to all you Congress people. Chop it up real nice. But I'm gonna focus on what I just said. You need to do something right now. If President Snow signs it into law, that evaporates his entire white identity extremist base. I know you believe me because I made perfect sense. And you guys are smart, intelligent people. In introducing her bill to the House last year, Jackson Lee said, the commission aims to study the impact of slavery and continuing discrimination against African Americans resulting directly and indirectly from slavery to segregation to the desegregation process and the present day. The commission would also make recommendations concerning any form of apology and compensation to begin the long delayed process of atonement for slavery. Since then, reparations have continued to draw attention and the issue was elevated further during the recent Black Lives Matter protests. Long at the center of the debate has been the potential price tag of paying slavery descendants, which studies broadly include most or all of the 41 million Black people in the country. Now, I wonder if Angela Rye is gonna talk about this. Is Angela Rye gonna talk about this? That immigrant I've never heard reparations come out of her mouth. Okay. And then you got Brokeback Mountain. I ain't never heard him say reparations. Have you? If you have, show me the clip. Put the clip in the comments, bro. Okay. A new study from 3 college professors said that the ultimate cost could be 6.2 quadrillion. The ultimate cost. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I got you. Okay. Yeah, that is much higher than what we're suing him for. Suing President Trump right now. We're suing President Trump right now. And the estate of Abraham Lincoln for pulling the wool over everybody's eye, talking about he freed the slaves when he ain't do nothing but transfer slavery from private to public. The state, the winning state that unified the United States from south, north to south. Unified the United States. They came up to an agreement. That's why they gave the Confederates hush money to be quiet. See what I'm saying? And they promised that the South will rise again. They're working on it right now as we speak. Okay. So that's about 5.5 times more than what we're suing them for. So then you got the Washita boys. I'm a Washita. We got it on record. I don't understand why they haven't collected on that bill. But we got it on record that they owe 80 quadrillion. Yeah. These are the new phrases that you're going to have to get used to. You understand? We got our very first trillion-dollar company. Millionaires went from 1,300 millionaires in the country to 13 million millionaires in the country. Billionaires went from 5 billionaires in the country to 500 billionaires in the country. So you're going to have to get used to hearing the word quadrillion, bro. It's not as much as you think. The Israelites have the wealth of that's valued at infinity. You're looking at an Israelite. Now, this particular amount right here, the study suggests a payment of $151 million per person. Now, that amount of monies would make black men more attractive to black women. I mean, there's no help for me. You know, I done been through wars my whole life, and now I'm looking crazy, and I'm beat down from fighting this fight, the reparations fight. But I done been beat down in person quite a million times. Got my nose broke. That's why it's crooked. You understand? All types of stuff. All my life I had to fight. You understand what I'm saying? So you can miss me with all that madness. Flavor Flav comes to mind. Flavor Flav is extremely wealthy, yet the most memorable guest on Flavor Flav's Flavor of Love is attractive, and so is the girl with the big old booty. She's attractive too. He had many attractive ladies on his show, and they all really wanted him for real. They wanted him because now they can entertain his personality because he can take care of them. You understand? They don't have to do much to live out their pursuit of happiness. They could just seek out a black male that has $151 million in his bank account, and they don't have to work as diligently as they do upside down on those posts or bobbing for apples at those parties. You understand? So now, a new study from 3 college professors said that the ultimate cost could be $6.2 quadrillion. Quadrillion comes after trillion, and 1 quadrillion has 15 zeros. The cost to every person would be 18 the cost to every person would be 18 nearly $19 million. I guess that was that. The new study suggests a payment of each, and the cost to every person would be $19 million. What does that mean? I don't understand what that means. The calculation is somewhat complicated, but it essentially studies the unpaid hours slaves. Hello, Dizzy. Okay, so now we got I don't know what that means. The calculation is somewhat complicated, but it essentially studies the unpaid hours slaves worked, calculates a price for massacres and discrimination, and adds in interest. It is titled Wealth Implications of Slavery and Racial Discrimination for African American Descendants of the Enslaved. We winning, we winning. Okay, so now let's see what that means. The review of Black political economy. Mhm. Wealth implications of slavery and racial discrimination for African American descendants of the enslaved. Oh, they put the right link in there. That's good. So you read this, it says we compare the 2018 per capita black white wealth gap of about $352,250 with portions of the estimated total cost of slavery and discrimination to African American descendants of the enslaved. For the period of slavery in the United States, we arrive at the estimates of $12 to $13 trillion in 2018 dollars using the Darity's land-based and Markety's price-based estimation methods, respectively. Estimates using Kramer's wage-based method tend to be higher, ranging from 18.6 trillion to 3% interest to 6.2 quadrillion at 6% interest. The value of lost freedom, based on Japanese American World War II internment reparations, is estimated at 3% interest to amount to 35 trillion, and at 6% to 16 quadrillion. Further, research is required to estimate the cost of lost opportunities and pain and suffering. Further research is also required to estimate the costs of colonial slavery, as well as racial discrimination following the abolition of slavery in the United States to African American descendants of the enslaved. Whether the full cost of slavery and discrimination should be compensated or only a portion. What did you just say? And at what interest rate remain to be determined by negotiations between the federal government and the descendant community. Oh, they want to see if we soft with it. No, nigga, you got to pay us double whatever statistic you come up with. Okay, he's having a conversation with his wife. He's going to miss the meeting today. Okay, that's why I was wondering why everybody was late to the meeting. So I went ahead and went live because I saw the breaking news that just came out today. Tone, quit playing with me, Tone. Quit playing with me, Tone. All righty. Now let's get back to the information. It goes here. It goes on to say, the authors concluded, we argue that the United States government should have paid reparations for enslavement and de jure racial discrimination because the ratification of the Fifth Amendment in 1791. Now, I mean, with that said, you would have came off like a fat rat because you only offered 40 acres and a mule. You would have came off like a fat rat. But no, you flimsy little Andrew Johnson, flimsy back boy. You see what he did? He said, "Oh, so they threaten him the same way that they're threatening you today." Is what you're telling me. The South said that's going to break the truce, and we're going to just slaughter every black person that's in the country, and that's it. It's game over. That's what you're telling me. And then you would have had to come out to try to defend us. And you would have lost more lives. The war would have started over from scratch. That's what you're telling us, right? That's what it says here. You can't read. The authors concluded, we argue that the United States government should have paid reparations for enslavement and disjure racial discrimination because the ratification of the Fifth Amendment in 1791. Okay, Article 4, Section 2 of the Constitution established not only slavery, but also the personhood of the enslaved, and the Fifth Amendment applies to all people. Had these reparations been paid, they would have had intergenerational wealth implications for African American descendants living today. See, I don't even have to expound. It's just so well written. Hey, brother, what's your name is? Paul Bedard. I'm gonna have to call you today and congratulate you on this well-written article that you got here, Mr. Paul. Okay, I don't even have to expound on this information. It's so clear. But I do have an audience that don't hear very well. It says here that the Fifth Amendment applies to everybody. Okay, so no, they would have had intergenerational wealth implications. That's what we've been talking about today, intergenerational wealth. That's what everybody, all our intellectuals, they just get your own money. Forget begging for reparations. Get your own money. You understand how long our ancestors worked so that we could have money today? Not making any sense, intellectual man. Yeah, I'm talking to you, boys. Okay, now the United States Conference of Mayors, okay, wrote a letter, and it reads like this right here. It was written on July 10th, 2020. Dang, the ink ain't even dried on it yet. The Honorable Cory Booker, United States Senate, and the Queen, Sheila Jackson Lee. Dear Congresswoman Jackson Lee and Senator Booker, on behalf of the United States Conference of Mayors, I'm pleased to share with you that last week at the conference's 88th annual meeting, the nation's mayors unanimously passed a resolution I sponsored in support of the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. We recognize and support your legislation as a concrete first step in our larger reckoning as a nation and a next step to guide the actions of both federal and local leaders who have promised to do better by our Black residents. So they're gonna do this. They're gonna study it for a whole nother year when it's already been studied for 5,000 years. We got the information right there. Bow. We got a whole cabinet full of information that you could just write into a law. That's all you gotta do. You got the banks that's already bankrupt. Is it our fault that they bankrupt, or is it their fault that they bankrupt? You understand? They need to sign over the nearest bank to my location, to my foundation, Club of New Jerusalem Foundation. They need to sign off on it and say, oh, Club of New Jerusalem Foundation owns this bank now. I'm just letting you know what should happen. You know what I'm saying? I'm semi-joking. The other semi is being for real. So now, our support of your bicameral legislation is not just an endorsement, it is a resolution. We have resolved to do better for our Black residents by promoting equal rights and opportunity through the implementation of policy reforms at the local level, as well as through our advocacy for action at the federal level. This year, the nation's mayors will work diligently on a national platform known as an American Breakthrough. Huh, ain't that something? That's a mental term where you have a breakthrough, a mental disability term. You understand, where they reflect on the past, they realize something happened and like, oh, is that what happened? I didn't realize people felt that way. I'm sorry. Yeah, so they had a breakthrough. They both, the House and the Senate, have already apologized for oppression. So an apology comes with restitution and reparations. Cut the check. And don't talk to me about nothing else other than cutting the fucking check. Don't you do it. You don't want to see me angry. I like to stay calm. Cut the check. This year, the nation's mayors will work diligently on a national platform known as an American Breakthrough, which will be informed by mayor-led work groups on critical interconnected challenges, police reform, and racial justice. Guiding the COVID-19 response and health equity, eliminating poverty, dismantling systemic racism, and supporting equitable economic recovery. We are committed to doing our role in local government to disrupt systemic racism, which inhibits the realization of a nation of liberty, prosperity, and justice for all. Thank you for your tireless advocacy on behalf of our cities. We are proud to echo your calls to address centuries of racial injustice and inequities in America, and the nation's mayors stand ready to support and amplify your efforts. Now, why in the world does this sound like it was? I mean, this sounds word for word as if it was written by King Reggie. What's his name? What was his name? The guy with the Black City plan. Reggie, I forget his name, but Brother Reggie, that's what they call him, Brother Reggie. This, I mean, that's what it just would sound like to me. But he might not have anything to do with that. But I can see him fighting behind the scenes because we rarely see him in front of the camera. You understand? So I think this is more of his forte, like myself, behind the scenes at the meetings and telling these people, serve the masters, serve their masters. Okay, so now let's take a look at, is that it? That's it. Well, thanks for listening. Appreciate you. And you have an excellent day. Sorry for you scoffers of reparations. But it's inevitable. You can't win. If you try to win, it's a very dangerous situation there. You understand? So the world has matured to a place where it says that do everything in your power to resolve conflicts without war. That's why the rule of law is so important, and court processes are so important, and notifications are so important. So you're on notice. You've been notified. And thanks again, Paul Better, for explaining this to the public.